We recently got our first potential look at Doctor Doom's costume in the MCU for the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. So as someone whose most popular videos are ranking superhero suits, let's look at this costume and discuss what we can learn about this version of Doom and the upcoming movie as we overanalyze Doctor Doom's new look. Hello and welcome to Cinemaze, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this. Recently, Disney held their Merchandise Expo in Shanghai, and during this, they displayed promotional art for Avengers Doomsday featuring our first full look at Doctor Doom, and it might hint a thing or two about this interpretation. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is this actually the Doctor Doom design that we will see in the movie? Now, it was at a Disney convention, so we know it is an official piece of art, but is it just placeholder? Well, the design was featured alongside the likes of Buzz Lightyear, Mickey Mouse, the Mandalorian, and the most important, Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is here to promote Brand New Day, however, is not actually the suit that we know is going to be worn in that film. This is just a promotional suit that Disney used to market Spider-Man using a very traditional suit. However, because it's very simplified and classic, much like the Brand New Day suit, they do appear very similar, and so it's still relatively reflective of the suit that we know is appearing in Brand New Day. Therefore, applying this logic to Doctor Doom, I can see two situations happening here. Number one, like the Spider-Man suit, this is just a promotional piece of art. It's not indicative of Doom's final look, and it's purely designed to market the movie without spoiling things or while the final suit is still being worked on behind the scenes. But it may give us a flavor for what the final suit will look like in the same way Spider-Man's marketing suit is similar to the Brand New Day suit. However, there are a few things that make me think this is not the case. Firstly, this is an extremely detailed design. It seems like a lot of work and thought has been put into this design, more so than the Spider-Man image, which is fairly simple. And secondly, earlier this year, this promotional Spider-Man image was used at another Disney convention, but that time it was alongside a comic image of Doctor Doom. So in that situation, where they wanted to market Doctor Doom without showing the final suit, they used an Alex Ross comic image. Therefore, if they were still trying to hide the Doom design, why wouldn't they do that again this time? Which leads to the second situation, that this is the official Doctor Doom design that will appear in the movie, and it's only Spider-Man that doesn't have his proper design due to the rights issues that Disney have with Sony, stopping them from using the proper Spider-Man suit. They don't have that issue with Doom, so they can use his proper suit. So due to the detail of this suit and the fact they aren't using a comic image again, it makes me believe that this is, or at least close to, the design that we will see in the final movie, and that makes it fun to talk about. So now looking at the design in more detail, the first immediate thought that I have is that this is a very traditional take on the Doctor Doom suit, and thank God for that. Many of us had concerns about Robert Downey Jr.'s casting as Doom, and that it wouldn't be a traditional take on the character. And while that is still a concern, this suit does alleviate a lot of those worries, because this isn't infamous Iron Man style Doctor Doom in an Iron Man suit, and it isn't Demon in an armor Tony Stark as Doctor Doom. This just looks like Doctor Doom, and that's a great thing. It's got the green cloak, it's got the metal medieval armor, it's got a very traditional Doctor Doom mask. So let's look at that mask in more detail. I'm really happy they've gone for the open eyes look, where you can see the eyes underneath the mask. This is the most traditional look for Doom in the comics. However, sometimes we do see kind of a glowing covered eyes for Doom, and we saw that in some of the potential leaked art for Doomsday, which would obviously be more reminiscent of Iron Man's mask. But I also think showing Doom's eyes really adds to his character. Obviously, from a film point of view, showing the eyes allows the character under the mask to emote a lot more, which is always a good thing. And this was something that you saw in the very early Jack Kirby Doctor Doom art, where he really did add emotion through those eyes. But more so, I think it adds to the character by having this fearsome, stoic, robotic look from the outside, but you get a glimpse of the humanity underneath just by showing his eyes. He's hiding his scarred face from the world, but the person under the mask just peeks through, and so I'm so glad they've chosen this look. We get a classic rectangular nose, which is common on almost every interpretation of the mask, and that nose alongside the eye angle, mouth, and cheekbones do make it look like Doom is both smug and full of anger, the perfect face that encapsulates this character. Now, those cheekbones here do look very prominent, and that isn't particularly unusual in the comics. It can vary from a flatter mask to this more angular look. But if there is one thing that reminds me the most of Iron Man on this suit, it is those cheekbones with a sharp angle and then curve, which we saw on the MCU Iron Man and even on MCU Ultron. But really, that's the only place where I can see any potential influence from Iron Man here. The mask has the usual Doctor Doom circular rivets, though maybe not as many as I thought. It's not the same mask that we saw RDJ wear at Comic-Con, though they do seem broadly similar. This has has more details, and it also does appear different than the mask that we saw in Fantastic Four First Steps, which looked more rounded, shiny, and smooth, and supposedly that was shot on the set for Doomsday, so you'd think there'd be the same mask. And that's the main thing, that's the only thing that really throws any doubt that this design might not be the real design. Also during this expo there was a hologram which featured Doom. The mask in that was also different while the rest of the design was the same, but that hologram was more stylized, angular, and simplified, so I trust the art a bit more than that hologram. Now moving away from the mask, this Doom has a layer of chainmail that forms part of his armor. This isn't something we traditionally see in the comics where it's usually more solid metal all over, but I really like this choice. It maintains the royal feeling of this character, tying into his role as leader of Latveria and his links to classic medieval magic. It also will allow the character to feel more mobile and less rigid, and importantly, makes it feel less like an Iron Man suit. Over the chainmail on his arms are ring-like structures which do feel reminiscent of Shang-Chi's 10 rings, which we knew were going to play into the original plan when this movie was Kang Dynasty. So maybe there is still connection to the original version of this film. And in that hologram that I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of ring imagery. And then we look at his gauntlet and boots, and these have more of a modern feel. So just from his arms, we potentially have his royal medieval heritage with his chainmail, we have mystical artifacts with the rings, and we have his technology on his gauntlets. All three classic elements of the Doom character. On the main part of his torso, we get a padded texture to his tunic, and in the full-length image, we see that this carries way down below the belt. This is just a way to make his green material less plain with texture, and it does have some kind of emblem on it. That could be some kind of royal Latverian symbol or a magical rune. And we get a rune-like symbol on his belt buckle. Traditionally, Doom has a very chunky gold square belt or sometimes a D shape. This new version feels very specific, so I wonder if it has any meaning. And the two circular clasps holding up his cape also have symbols, and each one has a unique symbol. Again, this is a departure from the comics where they're usually gold and they both match. One symbol appears to be a star shape, potentially very similar to Captain Marvel's logo. The other looks more like a fork shape. Maybe this is a link with Dr. Doom's connection to Hell and the Devil's Pitchfork. I could also see maybe it's similar to Galactus's head. As I'm editing this, I realize I actually might be looking at this wrong, and there might be a line along the top making this more of a rectangular shape on top of a handle, and that actually looks very similar to Mjolnir. So maybe we've got something here where Doom has symbols of Captain Marvel and Thor. Maybe he's got their powers or he's defeated them. Whatever they represent, again, having two distinct designs feels very intentional. And again, we see this element in the hologram, although one of the symbols is slightly different in the hologram. Another thing, this suit is green. And yes, that might seem obvious. Dr. Doom is green, right? Yes, but in Secret Wars 2015, when Doom is God Emperor in charge of Battleworld, he wears a white version of his suit. And in some of the Doomsday leaked art when he was drawn, it was a more white looking suit. So this new design may support the idea that Doomsday is not set on Battleworld, and that will be saved for Secret Wars, which I think is a positive. I think we need to see the build up to it, and that classic green suit would work for the setup, then they used the white for the more godlike Doom in Secret Wars. That said, in the hologram, we do see a moment with Doom ripping out someone's skeleton, a moment that happens to Thanos in 2015 Secret Wars on Battleworld, so maybe there is some level of Secret Wars influence in Doomsday. While it very easily could be Thanos, the skeleton's head looks very large, so it makes me think it could be a Watcher, and that's supported by a moment where it looks like Doom breaks the Watcher's observational plane, where he views the multiverse through shards of glass that we saw in What If. The colours here do feel very muted. Usually Doom has gold on the belt and his cape clasps, but here those elements are turned silver and the green is quite dull. Maybe it's just this art that's darkening the style, but that is often the Russo brothers' style. But it does seem very different from the vibrant green that we saw in Fantastic Four. So maybe he actually has two suits in the film, wearing a more classic design when he's in the 60s retro setting. The fact that this does feel like some kind of royal armor makes me believe that this Doom is from Latveria and is the ruler of it, and that's supported by him sitting in a throne in those holograms. And due to the references of Latveria that we got in First Steps, I think that this Doom will be from that same universe as the Fantastic Four, which I think is a big positive. And this just feels like a classic take on the character of Victor Von Doom. While they have said Robert Downey Jr.'s casting and connection to Stark is intentional, the design doesn't feel like it, and I think that's a good thing. Overall, I really like this design. With maybe a bit more color, it's basically perfect. It translates the Dr. Doom design from the comics, it adds detail and texture without over-designing it, and it tells us a lot about his character. There's a clear mix of technological, mystical, and royal elements building this costume, and that is perfect for Doom because he combines all of those worlds. It feels mobile and not restrictive. It feels realistic. The Fantastic Four post-credit suit felt way too shiny, clean, and cheap looking, whereas this suit feels a bit more lived in and dirty. It isn't an Iron Man suit, which I was worried about, and that honestly really excites me for Doomsday because it makes me more excited for Doctor Doom. Not Tony Stark variant Doctor Doom, but excited for just Doctor Doom. And that's exactly how we need to be feeling for this movie. Look, I may be going into way too much detail here. This may not even be his final costume. I'm aware that I am over-analyzing it, but it feels so specific, so detailed that I think it is real. And honestly, I hope that this is Doctor Doom's costume for Avengers Doomsday. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this Doctor Doom suit, and does it make you more excited for Doomsday? If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. It helps my channel out so much. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this on Marvel, DC, or anything else amazing going on in cinema. But for now, thanks for watching. Cinemaze.